You could say he was our Santa Claus, yeah. Right there on the map, we also have it. He was born in a city named Akşehir. This is a city that we will go right now, which is famous with the cherry trees, okay? And he is a character from Turkish mythology, approximately from 13th century. In ancient Turkish literature, we have like 500 stories, anecdotes about Nasreddin Hoxha. Nasreddin is his name. The word Hoxha means simply teacher, okay? He was working in a mosque as a teacher in order to teach Quran and Arabic to the young boys. This is like an Ottoman title. You will see that in his images, he usually has a turban on top of his head, and the turban itself is a wisdom symbol in Ottoman society. You will see that important theologians have significantly bigger turbans, okay, on their heads. Sometimes they're giant, like big turbans. The turban of Nasreddin Hoxha is something a little smaller because he was simply working in a mosque in order to teach the children. And legend says that he was born here during the 13th century. So these jokes or anecdotes or fables related to Nasreddin Hoxha is quite important for Turkish people because they teach us in the school. So every Turkish kid would know the history of Nasreddin Hoxha, and his fame went to other countries too. He's very well known in Persia, in Mongolia, also in Sicily. In Sicily they call him Giufa, all right? And you would hear these stories, these anecdotes about Nasreddin Hoxha. The thing is, they are written with the 13th century Turkish, and when you try to translate them into English, most of the time they lose their meaning. They're not that funny anymore. But I have some Nasreddin Hoxha jokes for you.
New material.
The thing is, Turkish people has a very dark sense of humor. Okay, this is one of the difficulties when we meet with other people from especially European or Western countries. We tend to make these jokes that would shock people. Like, some of them are a little offensive. In our culture, it's completely fine. This is how we talk to each other, but we understand that it comes as strange to other people. And Nasreddin Hoxha is quite representative of this dark Turkish humor, actually. That's why he's so famous. And these jokes are quite reflective of his time. So there's a joke about him that is called right riding. When the Hoxha was going out with his students, he sat on a donkey facing the tail. They asked him why, and he explained, as a teacher, I must be in front of you. But if I face the front, I cannot see what you are doing behind me. Therefore, if I sit on the donkey this way, I can see all of you quite easily. So that is why, usually in his images, he's backwards, looking at the other side, okay? So this is another joke called goat. One day, people asked the Hoxha, to which sign of the zodiac do you belong? He answered, the goat. What? They said, but there isn't any sign of the goat. When I was born, said Hoxha, they said to my mother that I was a Capricorn. There you are then, Hoxha, said one of them. But the Hoxha turned to him and said, I'm 40 years old, so can't a Capricorn grow up to be a goat in that time? This is another one. The pot that gave birth. Its name is, okay? So one day, Nasreddin borrows a cooking pot from his neighbor, and while returning, he puts a smaller pot inside it. When the neighbor asks what that means, he replies, the pot gave birth and delivered a baby. The neighbor happily accepts both the pot and its baby. A while later, Nasreddin once again borrows the pot from his neighbor, but this time he doesn't return it back. The neighbor kindly asks him why, and he hasn't returned the pot. Nasreddin, with his sorry face, tells him that the pot has passed away. Then the neighbor grumbles and says, Hoxha, how can a pot die? It's not even alive. This is nonsense. Nasreddin replies, well, it made sense when the pot gave birth. Why are you angry when it's dead?
Yes.
This is another one. Nasreddin Hoxha was invited to give a sermon in the mosque. Reluctantly, he dragged himself to the pulpit in front of the room and glared at his attentive listeners. Do any of you, he began, have any idea what I'm about to say? His followers glanced around in confusion and shook their heads no. With a huff, Nasreddin left the podium. The sermon is over. Why would I waste my time to preach to those who don't even know what am I going to say? The next day, feeling very embarrassed, the congregation again invited Nasreddin to give another sermon. This time, when Nasreddin asked if they knew what he was about to say, they all nodded sagely and murmured loudly that they did indeed know what he would say. "Good," exclaimed Nasreddin. "I see I have no need to preach to you now that you already know what I shall say." And with that, he concluded the sermon. On the third day, the people, utterly perplexed, but nonetheless determined to make Nasreddin give a proper sermon, carefully discuss what they should do before inviting Nasreddin back. Again, they were asked, "Do you know what I'm about to say?" And this time, half of the number nodded yes, while the other half shook their heads no. Nasreddin declared, "Then let the half of you who know what I shall say preach on my behalf to the others." And then again he concluded the sermon. Do you want one more? So the jokes are usually this way. You will find a lot of them in some of the stops that we will make. They sell these books named The Anecdotes of Nasreddin. Okay, and you would find these translations into Turkish language quite reflective of 13th century Turkish humor. And this place is entirely filled with the statues of Nasreddin. Actually, he also has his tomb. We know that he doesn't exist, he's mythological, but so many people believe that he was born in the city, so they would go traditionally to this tomb in order to pray, in order to ask for help, in order to ask for wisdom, as a local custom. Okay? So the mountains that you're seeing on your left are still the Taurus Mountains that we crossed yesterday. They will accompany us until we get to the region of Pisidan, Antioch. Okay, they will be on our left all the time. In a while, I will also show you that mountain that has formed, the Lystra that we visited yesterday, that has formed that volcanic stone that will be on our left too as we're traveling through Turkey interior. Do you have any questions so far?
Did they ever find out who wrote the jokes of the mythological character?
They haven't found out who wrote the jokes. But